the international structural design efforts at EdPlus in Arizona State University. So let's welcome her with a warm applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you aren't too sleepy from lunch. Am I not on, or is that me? There we go. Okay. Want to talk today about enhancing community building and lifelong learning with our insights from digital platforms for African youth. Want to start out with a little icebreaker, get you all thinking. I know we all just came from lunch, so kind of get your brain cells moving. So how do you define these two terms? Community building, lifelong learning, you're here because they appealed to you, so what does that mean to you? Anybody? There's not a wrong answer here. I know my teacher side is coming out like right, wrong. Go ahead. Carries on forever, not just school. Yeah, sorry, work the crowd.
Yeah.
Yes, let's have them do the mic. All right, I'll do that. Anybody else want to chime in?
Collaboration for community building.
Great. Anybody else want to weigh in on a definition? Only two brave souls. No? All right, you do it.
Community building, I think it's more about building a society that is focused to a specific area in terms of training and teaching.
Love it.
And so for me thinking program I'm doing, community building is partly for lifelong learning. So you build the community within the program, so relationships, professional developments, and then 10 years later they're still learning from each other.
Love it. And I'm going with the whole, there's no wrong answer, like I said, because it is about how you identify that. Let's talk a little bit about me. Give this back to you before we lose it. I am Elizabeth Gordon. I've been working in Open edX for 7 years, just over 7 years actually, on a number of different platforms. We'll talk in depth a little bit more about where the communities they serve, but we've got a lot of different platforms that address both of these topics for African youth specifically and kind of in a larger community sense. So there are some of their logos so you can learn all about them. But here's how I define community building and lifelong learning. Community building can be a geographic locus. So it can be, I live in Stellenbosch. But it also can be, I am a coder. And that can be a community, and you can have a community of coders who are from all around the world. It can be any one of those two or a combination of them. It could be coders who live in Stellenbosch, and that is a community. You really can define those by any of those criteria. What really is the kind of criteria for community is unified values and activities. There are things that they will in fact bond around. For lifelong learning, continuous, it's kind of that idea, as was pointed out, that it's not just about your degree. It's not just about graduating from high school. It's this idea that you're going to learn continually throughout your life. Generally speaking, lifelong learning, kind of one of those differentiating factors for most definitions that I've seen, has been the idea that it is self-motivated or voluntary. It's not your job said, go get this certification so that you can get a promotion, so you can do this. It's not the government said you have to graduate from high school in order to, or whatever. It's this voluntary self-motivated, I am interested in this. Typically informal, but it doesn't have to be. You can go get a certificate that is a formal thing just because you want to, so that would count as lifelong learning. And that's one of the fun spaces that we get into in some of the platforms we're involved in. So just get us all on the same page so we know what we're talking about. Here's a point. UN did some research back in 2023, and one of the things that they saw was that investing in lifelong learning for women, youth, and migrants creates healthier and more prosperous societies. It's not just about the degrees, it's that lifelong learning and that continuous learning that gets into that kind of well-being of a community space. And for us, we see technology as an enabler, especially among youth. You have these younger populations where they are tied to their devices when they have them. That becomes sort of their lifeline. Try and take a phone away from a teenager and see what happens. And so really leaning into that as a space, again, we're at an ed tech conference, so I kind of don't have to convince you of the benefits of technology. Want to take a second just so you understand kind of who you are. If you were at the keynote, this is a repetition, sorry. Again, I think I'm contractually obligated as an ASU employee to put up the charter and tell you this. But this is why we do what we do. We believe in investing in the communities we serve, and because we are a global organization, that pretty much means everywhere. There's nowhere where we say, well, no, we're not dealing with those people because that's not our people. They're all our people, and it's just a matter of which programs we have and where it is and how we can maximize our efforts and who we've partnered with. Where I work is a subset of Arizona State University. We are the arm where ASU Online lives. That's not what I do, but that's where ASU Online lives. And one of the things that we see as kind of our mission at EdPlus is that online learning isn't a side hustle for the university. It's not a side hustle for universities in general. It shouldn't be a side hustle for anybody. Online learning is the thing for the university. And our numbers are about proving that. We're kind of proud of the whole fact that we'll actually have more learners in ASU Online this fall than there will be traditional undergraduate students on campus. So it's kind of a fun little number. But in terms of a broader context, using online learning to empower our efforts and to address that access mission of increasing access to education, not just higher ed, but lifelong education. These are critical, important missions for us. And again, duplication from the keynote, but the idea is that through our partnerships, we can address both local and international populations to increase access to education. And that's the kinds of projects that we're kind of featuring in this talk today. One of the things that we keep in mind in this is this idea that in lifelong learning, your learning is probably not linear. There are, in fact, some learners who progress linearly. They go through primary school, they go to secondary school, then they go to tertiary, college, and they'll maybe get a couple of certifications, but it's just a straight line for them. But there's also a whole bunch of learners whose learning journey is non-linear, and they're all over the place. Folks who decide that they're going to get that college degree in their 50s. Folks who are going to, we have a senior community that's right next to ASU. And we have folks who will start a college degree in their 80s because they can. But the idea is whatever age they reach us, whatever stage they are in their life, being able to form a learning relationship that then will partner with them and give them the access to whichever kind of learning it is that they want. Do they want a credential? Do they want a certificate? Do they just want to take a class in pottery? Whatever it is that they want, meeting that need for them. Here's the other thing. In this constantly changing world, lifelong learning is what's needed to thrive. All kinds of workers are in their 40s realizing that, technology has phased out one particular part of their job, and now they need to pick up a skill. So the idea of constant learning is where the future is as technology changes things. ChatGPT came in and, revolutionized all kinds of things. Technology is going to change the world, and so you have to constantly learn to adapt. And so lifelong learning, we can be hyper-personalized, meet learners where they are using technology. We can, in fact, be democratized. Learning is a democratizing influence by removing those barriers to opportunities. When you build online, your learning can be flexible, and we are able to meet kind of very specific needs for learners. We build planetary-wide, and that's, again, part of what we are really focused on. And we 100% believe that lifelong learning can be transformational for individuals, but also transformational for communities. So just a little focus on why it is that we're doing what we do. So in these projects, we've kind of learned 4 main things that we think are important. So one, we employ human-centered design. We'll meet the content appetite. We will have the youth serve as ambassadors, and the strategic use of technology. So first, let's talk a little about the demographics for the platforms that we're using here with African youth. In general, for all of them, we're talking about youth from 16 to 35. I know yesterday Hammett made this point, Hatim, sorry, he used updated statistics from mine because I've got the 2030, 42% of the world's youth will live in Africa. He had a lot more statistics, but they echo the same idea that Africa is where it's at. And this population is going to have great needs for learning efforts, and this is part of why we are here. Across the board, a couple of main goals that we see for our users. Again, there's an entire span, but these are kind of the overarching general goals. They're looking for meaningful work. Also a point that was made yesterday. They're looking for lifelong learning. It's not just about the degree for them. It's about skill building, improving themselves. A lot of requests that we've seen come in from our users are like, wait, you're interested in that? We've had requests for like happiness and well-being, self-care, mental health. All of these are kinds of issues that come up in requests from our users. And there is a significant component of that is improving educational outcomes. That was one of the points that was made this morning by Professor Jansen, this idea of that disparity in educational outcomes. We are providing lifelong learning kind of resources that help fill that gap in educational outcomes by providing more skills. We've been engaging with the population here in Africa since 2014 through a couple of different partnerships. Our most recent platform just started in 2022, so this is an ongoing relationship that we're continuing to grow and develop. So let's talk about human-centered design. One of the things that we really look at in human-centered design is valuing inclusivity. If you have an idea of what your user is and you just work with that main idea, you will probably miss something. You will not be inclusive and you will leave someone out in what you are doing. So really not, with human-centered design, we start with a big idea. We have kind of a big core idea when we start a project. We think we're going to do this, this, and this. Big idea, build a platform for African youth. And we'll start on that. And we'll get kind of the ball rolling on that. But then you sit down and you have focus groups. You meet your learners, you survey them. You look at what they actually click on your site. You survey them some more. You do research groups. There are so many different ways to get more information about what it is that your users want. You'll evaluate the information that you collect from them. You'll learn they want something slightly different. You pivot, you reevaluate, you gather more information, you reevaluate, you learn, you redesign. It's this continual iterative process. The platform we have that started in 2014, when we first started, we was like, okay, our users are low bandwidth. They're going to be accessing this stuff on their phone. We're going to give them short, bite-sized, like 20-minute chunks of learning in a PDF. That's what they want, because they're going to be on low bandwidth. They're going to be accessing over their phone data. That's all. That's it. So we built a whole bunch of courses. I think we had 30 courses in that first iteration. Put them up quick. Heard from every last one of our learners, these aren't long enough. These aren't big enough. Where's the videos? Where's all this information? We're like, but the data. Oh no, they're using these from schools, from libraries. They're accessing, they've got a laptop and they're accessing these. We want it to be more involved. And so we pivoted into an open edX space where we were able to give them kind of those more involved courses that had that kind of more robust information, and provided them with certificates, which is another thing we didn't know originally that they wanted. So that idea of human-centered design, meeting your users' needs and giving them what they want. Part of human-centered design is also giving content to your users that is like your users, and meeting your users and understanding who they are. I talked about this in my talk yesterday about kind of building those MOOCs and having culturally relevant content for your users is really important for improving outcomes. It's part of the underlying principles of human-centered design is that your content looks like your users. There have been numerous studies in numerous different contexts about the importance of your content reflecting your users in some way, shape, or form. The African content, we found that to be critically important. So many of our users are like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for this content. I'm so tired of seeing American examples in every class I ever take. Not that there's anything wrong with America inherently, but the idea that there is more to the world than America. Yes, an American just said that in an actual class. But so this is the exact same course on 2 of our platforms. And you can see the one on the left, you've got African-looking folks, kind of different color base. That's the platform we have for African youth. We have the exact same class on our MENA region platform, and you can see kind of that traditional dress. Again, our users being able to see themselves in the content. In that same course, we had a couple of articles we used as Learn Mores, and we swapped them out. When we changed that course from one platform to the other, we used a different example. We found a different article that made similar points. Just that idea of having a case study from mental health resources, for example. I think it was a project in Ghana. And it was like, oh, these examples are from people like me who live in places like where I live, not some story from folks who live in New York City. So that idea, it's small ways that you can make your users understand that you are meeting them where they are, that you know who they are, and are reflecting that content for them. It helps to build that community sense that you are making that community for them. From a content perspective, similarly, built for our platforms, giving them the kind of content that they want. From a lifelong learning standpoint, we reach a whole broad range of perspectives of what we've got. A lot of our courses, that was sort of where we started. We're like, they want courses, we'll give them courses. We've got lots of courses. And so we have new courses that come out all the time. We have one, The Courage to Fly, and you can see kind of the purpose-built community. But they also started asking us for information. I need resources around transformational leadership and wellness. And can you just give me a whole bunch of resources? I don't want you to teach me that, just like where do I go for more information? So I'll actually, in my lightning talk later, talk about these things we created called resource hubs, where it's literally just a whole bunch of information put into a course, where it's like, here's other places to go get more information. We didn't have to build a course, we just gathered a whole bunch of resources, kind of polled a bunch of people, pulled that information together. So providing learners with the information they need to empower their learning, to where else that they can go to find more information, organizations they can connect with, places where they can volunteer their time to address that, all of those kinds of information. Those are part of lifelong learning. It's not just about consuming information. Sometimes it's about giving back and getting involved, doing things in the community. Those can be kind of encompassed in lifelong learning efforts. Our learners love certificates. This is, again, it's a thing where if your employer is interested in that skill you just learned, having that little ability to show them that you did in fact finish it. We have a number of universities who partner with our platform who will encourage their students to come and take our skill building courses for study skills, and they want to see those certificates from the students. So we really like certificates. We made ours pretty, but on all the platforms, that's the idea. We also have more formal certificates. There are a small subset of the courses on these platforms that were taught by ASU professors, and so they are able to get ASU certificates. They're not credit-bearing certificates, they just say ASU. Gives a little bit more panache to it. We do have one in particular that actually is a now multinational project for how to teach instructors for how to teach online. It's how we teach our ASU online instructors to teach online. We've been doing it now for 15 years, so that's our master class in teaching online. We're using it across, I believe we're on 4 different projects now, and you get, again, an ASU branded certificate for that. With that one, we're using a different platform to deliver the certificates, so they actually get a badge that they can share on LinkedIn or other social media, which is kind of fun. One of the other core components that we have found really useful for lifelong learning is addressing this study skills. Too many schools, both here in Africa, across the United States, pretty much anywhere I've gone and talked to folks about what it's like. We don't teach learners how to learn. We just expect that you're either good at it or you're not. And that creates this massive disparity, because if you didn't get taught the right skills early on, you may be missing something. If your learning style didn't mesh really well with how the content's being delivered to you, you're not going to achieve, and you're going to think that you're just not good at it. And it's just that you weren't taught how to hack your brain. So we've got these kind of study skills courses, also one for how to learn online, which is an entirely different skill set. We also found out that our learners want other things beyond just courses. They were learning a new language and they wanted somebody to practice talking that language with. And so connecting that community of French-speaking folks who want to practice speaking French, or French-speaking folks who want to practice speaking English to enhance those language skills. So we connect our learners around those kinds of things, build a community, like come practice a language with me. One of the most important things we learned on these platforms in order to kind of grow the platform, build community, and be successful was it's not just about us or some university telling users, hey, you should come do this. It's about the youth going to their friends and saying, hey, there's this platform, you should come use it. Or, hey, do you need help doing this? We have this community that's doing this. And we've, over the years with the longest platform we have there, have in fact developed a community of ambassadors where the youth will go around their university and hand out flyers about the platform, and they'll have the pop-up parties and say, hey, let's come and meet together here in person and talk about the resources that are available on the platform. So using the youth as ambassadors, it's part of our social media strategy. We get a lot of testimonials and get the youth to tell other youth via our social media platforms about the platforms, about the opportunities that are available. Most of our Zoom events, it's not ASU staff running them, it's one of the platform ambassadors who run it for their community. So again, it's that them leading each other to the information and building that community. So we call them Under the Baobab Tree. Baobab's the name of the platform. It's a shtick. It's part of the cultural reference of where people meet in a neighborhood. So we have pop-up parties. We also democratized the idea of giving each other opportunities. One of the things they said they wanted, again, meaningful work, job opportunities, internship opportunities, scholarship opportunities. You could probably spend an entire full-time person looking for those things for the community and still not give them all of the access, the opportunities. So we democratized it. We said, hey, everybody on the platform, if you hear about something, send it over and we'll share it and everybody can hear about it. And it's become one of the most popular features, the opportunities board. So they're telling people about job postings they saw, internship opportunities, scholarships, networking events, a club that they found out about, other learning resources that are free or almost free or available. So these kind of networking and opportunities are really one of the key features of the platform. We did a similar thing. This is for the MENA region platform. We used some of the social media using the youth voice to tell other youth about lifelong learning, about meeting challenges, about kind of what opportunities are available. It's not about us telling them, it's about them developing a community amongst themselves of opportunities that are available. We did have a promo, by the way. I think we gave out an iPad. Somebody donated an iPad to the program, so we were able to use that. Share your story and win. This is for the Ishi project. They do a similar thing. Each of the campuses is developing a youth advisory group. And so it's not the university telling the other, the university students, hey, you should come and join the platform. They actually use the youth, get a group on there, teach them how to use the platform, and then they'll stand out and have a booth and have a sign and be like, hey, you should come use the platform, it's really cool. And the youth are also advising how should we adapt the platform, what else do you want, what features do you need? So again, getting back to that human-centered design. And strategic use of technology. In general, in this region, 3 key points. Lightweight. Even though you do get some who they're using it at the campus, you do overwhelmingly, when you look at our Google Analytics, a lot of folks on their mobile phones using it over data. So we build for lightweight. We have options for watching videos, for either downloading them, downloading the transcript, watching them later, things like that. The ability to get information in as lightweight as possible. We love technology, but we're going to use the technology that works for us, not just something that is cool. Most of these are grant-funded programs, and so low cost matters. being kind of careful use of resources. So we go open source as much as possible, strategically using licenses where we absolutely need to. So OpenEdX plays a significant component of that. We also use Rocket Chat, which is an open source chat tool. There's a couple other those kinds of plugins that we use in the community and on the platforms. We've also learned you get varying degrees of digital literacy, so making the UX as seamless as possible. We have seamless single sign-on, that is really hard to say for some reason, where they go from OpenEdX to the chat tool back to the main platform, and the user doesn't know that they've moved through 3 different technologies. We've just made it go and you just click. It's very intuitive and make it so that all of that tech just works together and works seamlessly. If you're interested, this is what a typical system architecture for these platforms look like. We use Amazon Web Services. There's a pointer on this somewhere. Our custom front end is where kind of the user lands, and we integrate the data over to Salesforce. We were waiting for Aspects to come out. That's going to give us a whole lot more information, but we use it for customer relationship management, how we can reach out to them, who doesn't want to be emailed, makes us GDPR compliant, stuff like that. The open source chat tool, and of course our learning management system. That's just how that all works. The chat tool is another way that's really critical for building community. So we build these kind of channels where it is, we provide different topical areas where we encourage learners to meet around topics that we know that they want. We also give them the ability to create a new topic. If there's a new community that they want, they say, hey, you know, we're all fans of cats. You can have a cat community if you want. Sure, you can post cat pictures and cat memes. Do it. It'll be fun. Whatever it is, the way that they want to subdivide themselves and gather as a group, we give them the way to do that. This particular one is a community site, that community of practice site we built for that project where we network different universities and are teaching them to teach online. We gave them a space where they can talk to each other about specific topics. So we had gave them each other's contact information, some information about Quality Matters, which is a really great organization on designing good courses. But we also had a discussion about accessibility. Are you having a challenge meeting some accessibility need? Do you need some resource? How about a large enrollment course, so like how to manage an online course with a lot of students in it? What if you're using Blackboard and you need some help with a Blackboard course? Here's a community of Blackboard users. You can post a question. Somebody probably has an answer. Yes, there are resources out there on the internet. If you're new to online learning, sometimes reaching out to someone you know is a little bit friendlier than maybe reaching out to kind of one of those online help desks. But again, that idea of building community and sharing information. So we provided all of these kind of chat spaces. So let me tell you just a little bit about the platforms I think I've got like 2 minutes left. 3 main platforms we've referenced and where we're pulling these learnings from. Baobab, Ishi, and the Algorithm Young Thinkers program. Baobab is that social professional learning community. Started out as a network for MasterCard Foundation scholars. It has opened up now to any African youth. Again, those resources to help them get career goals and achieve impact. One of the important, really foundational principles for Baobab is the idea of giving back to your community and having an impact and enhancing change where you see it. So it's not, I see a problem, I'm going to sit around and complain about it, but there's a problem and hey, let's ideate how we can solve it. And we've seen some really amazing initiatives come out of that. Also just networking for jobs, for information, for professional development. Networking and collaborating is a really great feature of the platform. Ishi, I think this has been mentioned like 4 times this week. If you're not familiar with it yet, Ishi is an educational access and online learning platform in Ethiopia. We are building the infrastructure for the platform for all 50 of their public universities. So we are designing and deploying an LMS SIS custom portal platform for the with 50 microsites, and We also are providing instructional design and digital literacy training for the instructors, for the technical staff, teaching them how to use both Salesforce and Open edX, and with the end goal of empowering the system to be sustainable, and we step away and leave them to run their own site. And then the last one is the Young Thinkers program. Very similar to Baobab in that it's college and career readiness, lifelong learning, professional development. We also, for both platforms, have an online career assessment called Me3, where users can, if they don't know what they want to do with their lives, figure that out. I didn't give you numbers on any of the other sites, but Young Thinkers program, 75,000 learners. Ishi, we've got about, I think 100,000, close to 100,000 learners and professors loaded, and Baobab has about 70,000 users right now. And that's our 4 important things. Happy to take any questions that you might have.
I'm interested in the completion rates of these students once they get on. How long do they stay on?
So for all of the platforms, they're designed to be spaces where they can stay on forever. We don't have an upper range cutoff for staying. I think with the Young Thinkers program, we did not allow older people to join. Like if you're over 35, you couldn't join the platform, but for the rest, it's fairly open. Completion rates for our courses, I actually talked about this yesterday, and I should have these stats like right in my head, but they're well over 50% for all 3 platforms. And part of that driven just by intrinsic, they liked the courses. We did have a couple of partner universities who would say, like I mentioned earlier, you know, the professor would say, go take this class and bring me your certificate and you can get extra credit. So we had a little bit of kind of incentivization, but those were outliers, not overall. But we do see persistent rates. And because of the nature, their transitions, both they're kind of, for Baobab and Young Thinkers program, they're transitional programs. So they are to meet users when they are in a moment of transition, whether they're transitioning from high school to college, college to career, career to a different career. So we do see kind of these cyclical, when you track specific users, where they'll go months where they won't come on the platform, and then they're on the platform for like weeks on end because they found something that they need and they'll come and they'll get it. And that's the way it's designed to be. Sorry, did that answer that question?
Varies from your full-on ASU regular offering versus this offering, because you've got totally different cohorts.
Totally different.
Totally different needs.
Totally different cohorts, totally different needs. We don't even try to compete with ASU Online. They just do their own thing. We've taken basically all of the best practices of how to make great courses and applied them to these practices, these platforms. But yeah, we don't do, if it's a credit-bearing offering, we don't do it. Like we just literally, it's like there are enough resources out here for these platforms. This is just about that lifelong learning kind of activity. So we have recently added a couple of more hard skills courses. Like we were human-centered design. We listened to our users and they're like, we want a Python course. We found a Python course. We want to know more about data analytics. We got them a really long, really involved Excel for data analytics course, which is kind of amazing and took off like nobody's business. Like, who knew?
Thanks very much. Just a quick question around accessibility. How accessible are these courses? And I'm coming from a point of differently abled users as an example, specifically because the demographics and the geographies that you're dealing with can be quite challenging just from a technical standpoint.
Yeah, we meet full, I'm going to quote this wrong, but it's WCAG. I think it's double A. It's one of the A's. But yes, we are fully accessible. We design for that. So in our graphics, in our videos, we do subtitles. We make sure all of our graphics have, the tags we design for accessibility. It's part of, again, human-centered design is focused on inclusivity, which means being accessible. And yay for Open edX for also meeting that standard.
Fine. Also on accessibility, but maybe more like with the keynote this morning, there was like there's 3 levels of like, there's people that are like, they have devices, they have skills, then you have the like WhatsApp type, maybe a mobile, and then you have the like really basic access. And so, and then like also the work we do in the years, it's also like digital literacy is an issue. So there's maybe access to the devices, but, and so you mentioned that there's some UX stuff that you do to address that, and there's some where you like create low fidelity content formats, but are there any other ways that you use to address those challenges?
One of our biggest things is we actually have an entire suite of courses on digital literacy and like resources available on even just how do I log on to a website that users can get into, you know, like all of those kinds of, one of our users is actually a crowdsourced community built resource. He said, hey, my friends are struggling with like Word documents and, you know, like navigating the internet, and I created this PDF, can we put it on the platform and share it in the chat group, and then like people can share it, and it's literally gone viral in all of these kinds of things. So we'll get users who are like, I was able to join the platform because I'm blanking on his name, but I found that PDF and it taught me how to do that, and he had a little reference to, hey, and then once you get on, come join Baobab. But we do, it's that low bandwidth, we do have that as still an issue that we are addressing, and kind of as much as possible having multiple formats for all the content so that people can get there quickly.
So just a question, that addressing the digital literacy, does that happen online or does that happen in person?
Most of the courses are online, so there is that one resource, it's a PDF that has been making its way through WhatsApp. It's this viral little PDF that literally is how to navigate coming online. I haven't.
Cheat sheet.
Yeah, it's a cheat sheet. Yeah, seriously. And one of our users just created it and said, hey, can we post this? And so they posted it in the chat group and said, hey, if you have friends who are learning to do online, you know, share this with them, and it kind of does that kind of resource. It was a really fun little resource.
So just on WhatsApp, how are you finding people are actually finding your courses?
So
specifically from these sort of regions.
We were really lucky that we have kind of a built-in network to start with because of the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship Program. And so there is an entire network of MasterCard Foundation universities, and that's where we started. But then once we actually, it was a closed system at first. When we opened up, then basically it became just this word of mouth. We have a social media page and a social media team that does kind of amazing outreach. Does partner buy ads and that kind of stuff, and a really targeted kind of thing, and we've really grown. I think we did 50% growth. Don't quote me on that, and sorry for the guys watching at home if I got you wrong, but the significant growth once we opened up to other pieces, but it's really word of mouth. It's that networking component, using the youth as ambassadors. Tell your friends. We'll find professors from universities in Africa and say, hey, tell your students to come use our platform, because there's some really great resources we'd like to help with, so feel free.
Yeah, no, thank you. I want to take you back a bit to the question asked by the colleagues regarding the accessibility. I'm sure you have considered, as you're talking about the Africa concept in terms of the provision of the solution. I'm just thinking of where I'm coming from in Eastern Cape. We have about 90% of a province made out of a rural-based kind of environment. And the type of rural we're talking about, it's where you have to drive 2 kilometers before you can get just lousy network and be able to make a call or access whatever you want to access. I'm trying to think is there a way to tailor-make the solution such that it also enables those people to access it. That's number one. Number two, the issue of the digital divide is crazy in South Africa. I personally started to touch a computer when I was at the university first year, doing computer science, by the way. And if you can imagine how many of our fellow citizens who are in that position, and when they only get a chance to get a computer, there's still no structured way, and I think this one will be much structured to assist in that kind of instances. Thanks.
Yeah, I think solving all of the problems is definitely one of those huge challenges. So we're working on focusing on what we can. So reaching in the populations and locations where we are. I think as soon as the Raccoon Gang offline access app is available, that will address some of those issues, and we absolutely would love to have it for the platform. So can we hurry up and upstream that, please? Just for anybody watching. But that ability to, go into town, download the courses onto your phone, go home, finish the course, and then upload your progress later, which I'm hoping is how that worked. If not, we'll upgrade it and make it so that that's how that works. But that is like one of the things this team has been like, can we pretty please have that? So once we're there, I do think that will address a lot of those issues. But, developing partnerships for addressing some of those issues, like it's part of that kind of long-term strategy of what challenges shall we tackle, and what can we tackle within the scope of what we've got available. But there are lots of things. Incidentally, there also is a Baobab scholar who is working on an invention that is basically like a solar-powered hotspot, if I remember what he was working on. Like, we've got this whole entire entrepreneurship wing on Baobab that's amazing, like the things they've invented. But kind of for us, we're providing the space for that community building, for the community to solve bigger problems than we can address.
Yeah, just to echo on the last comment, I think for this particular region, custom mobile application and offline use is quite critical, just because the usage of mobile devices is much higher than desktop devices. I know that Raccoon Gang has already developed custom solutions as it relates to that for King Khalid University, so we can
Once
look
it's
into that.
upstream, we plan to snap it up for all of our projects. Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you to King Khalid for funding that, because we couldn't have. Anybody else?
So it's kind of, again, on accessibility. Specific context, work with an organization called the Tape Aids for the Blind, started in 1955 with volunteer narrators reading printed material and sending out cassette tapes. Today, some of that's online, some of that's CDs that go out to people in rural areas, but I'm just interested if there's any practice of human narration going alongside the content, or how that works. Yeah.
We actually just had a user. One of the universities that we partner with actually has their primary focus is special abilities folks. And so we finally got a user on the platform who tested a screen reader. We tend to believe that we're biased. Technology is probably a better solution, more comprehensive solution than human. I know that it doesn't always work, but we actually just got the report from his screen reader report, and so there are some gaps. We'll be providing feedback on stuff in Open edX that doesn't work for screen readers, but that idea of using technology to meet that need is where we've gone with that.
So yeah, if that's interesting to anybody, 99% of the blind people in South Africa are unemployed. Wow. And a portion of those can use the internet. And so we're working on it. It's not public on the internet yet, but it's called Blinding Light. And the idea is using those people to browse websites and run the accessibility reports that are in Lighthouse for the blind. So, in Lighthouse. So inside of Google Chrome, on the right, you've got Lighthouse. It's got 10 tests that need to be run manually. So the idea is, providing employment for those people to go and test sites. If anybody wants that, just please connect to Elizabeth and we'll get in touch. Yeah.
Fabulous. Any other questions? Yep. No, you're okay. I think we're...
It was around zero rating, so I'm not sure if that's a term you're familiar with. Okay, so have you had any luck with zero rating any of your platforms or content with any of the big telcos across the continent?
We have not done so yet, mostly because we're just in too many countries for most of the projects. I suspect that the Ishi project probably will. Fingers crossed. I hope they will. We're really early on that one yet. But no, we've not done any zero rating, but I think it would be really great if somebody would convince somebody somewhere that just if it's Open edX crawler. We should just zero rate that. Somebody lean on somebody somewhere to make it happen. I know. WhatsApp has a whole different kind of weight to it, but no, we've not addressed that. Just the weight that you have to apply to that, and when we're in, I think Baobab's in 84 countries, and Young Thinkers Program was in 20, and you know, it's just a whole different scale of trying to get that done. Perfect, and we are at time. Look at us. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.